If you have an old house, you probably have plaster walls. I do. And this is my first real experience with plaster walls. I've had this house for a few months. It was built in 1933, and I'm starting to do some remodeling. Right now I'm replacing some windows, which were original to the house, with some more modern insulated windows. But plaster can be a tricky beast to work with. One tap from a hammer and it can come all crumbling down, or it can resist breaking like concrete outside. And on top of that, it's kind of dusty when you work with it. It's definitely cement-based partially, but I figured out a way to cut it, remove it, that isn't quite as bad. The trouble was my windows that I'm putting in need an opening that's about 1 inch wider than what I have. And I looked at a lot of different methods. This is the one that I went with. It's an oscillating multi-tool. You can get a bunch of different brands. Mine happens to be a Fein or a Fine, F-E-I-N. A little bit on the pricey side, but if you're just your average do-it-yourselfer, they make these things pretty cheap. I don't know the exact prices, but they get down there pretty low. But here's the real secret, and it's this blade, okay? This blade does not cut in a traditional way. It has abrasive on it. And that abrasive wears away at the plaster as you cut. Now, it's not as accurate as running something through the table saw, but it's not terribly bad either. The other secret component, which isn't secret at all, is a shop vac. Okay, so I'll show a little bit of how I do this. I started by marking out the plaster, then I'll grind through the plaster, kind of wear away at it while vacuum up the dust. And then finally, I'll switch to a wood cutting blade and cut the lath behind the plaster. It's super simple. Anybody can do it. Be ready for a little bit of mess. I have a tarp down on my floor. Like I said, I'm going to use the shop vac, and I've got a bucket here that I'm going to put larger pieces in. Remember, when you're using the tool, you're not actually cutting the plaster. You're wearing it away. It's an abrasive. And that bit is actually, or blade, is actually very safe. I touch my finger to it sometimes by accident, and that blade doesn't cut me. It would wear my skin away, but it doesn't cut me. Now, the wood cutting blade, totally different story. That one can cut your fingers off. Be careful. Rock the saw back and forth a little bit as you make your cut. That helps the blade sort of change edges that's touching the plaster, gives it a little time to cool off, and you'll find it to be more effective. Process isn't perfect. Even with the vacuum running and having a cloth on the floor, you still get some mess. There's no way around it, but it's so much cleaner than it could be.